Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Ratner. Today I'm joined once again by Carrie for the fourth session in our mind-body consultation. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and we'll get back to you personally. And finally, you can reserve your place in one of my seminars, join my monthly membership group, or purchase any of my mind-body guides, also known as the PDFs, at www.crushingdoubt.org. Now, without further ado, here is my fourth conversation with Carrie for the action steps in the mind-body consultation. Carrie, I want to welcome you back. This is the fourth session in the four-session consultations. It's interesting because when I train people in this, I tell them it doesn't have to be 4 sessions. Sometimes they can be a bit longer, but we try to condense it as much as possible. And of course, we do each column one at a time. And then this last session, we concentrate on the action steps. Now, you also are a little bit of a special case because you have been through the seminar. You're now doing the membership groups. And what this means is that you are in a particularly informed place about these things. And that doesn't mean you're going to have all your action steps set or you will feel like you totally have mastered this or you know exactly what's going on. But it does mean that you're pretty well informed about what the columns do. Mm-hmm. And what I want to do today is to spend some time at first assessing where you are in those columns. If you've made any progress, how? If you feel like you're stuck at certain points, why? And then to start to use that information to determine what are some of those action steps you really are going to start using. We do not have to finish the process now. As always, this is all a process. So let's start off with just a brief assessment of where you think you're at in this work. And there's no pressure to be any particular place about it.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm just kind of working in the power and the action columns and really don't have a whole lot in the emotions or the doubt columns left. So, and these are my 2 trickier columns because I don't know as much about them or how to overcome them. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, I just want to make sure I've got the right idea though. It sounds like you feel like you've got those acute emotions column symptoms pretty under control. You know how to deal with them, maybe recognize your themes and stuff. Mm-hmm. Sounds like your doubt is pretty low now.
Yeah.
Before we move over to the power column and really get to work on that then, what was it that got your doubt lower? And how much of that was the work we did, the seminar? What happened with that?
Well, there was some doubt like that I was really missing something like in the emotional work. So I kept like revisiting it over and over and hoping for different results and not really believing anyone, even when they told me like, it's quit journaling or like, there was still like some like, oh, I just need to journal more, even though I did it for 1.5 years. Like, I just need to figure it out and I'm not doing it right, or something's off and it should work, or like why didn't some other programs work, or why didn't this work? And so now I know it was because I'd already I don't think I was really strong in that emotional component even to begin with. And then when you kind of explain the power column and how it comes in and how the action steps and all of that, and I could definitely see myself like 100% like it was like this big, like my power column was like this big when it should be this big. And then of course the doubt was playing in like around, well, one, like why aren't things working? I know that this is mind body, and kind of revisiting that doubt again and again. And maybe I should go back to doing some of the other stuff I was doing that's not even mind body, just other stuff. But now I know that it's, solidly power, and I know that that's my thing. And
okay. So I just want to sum up something here because I think this is important. In the work that we've done so far, first of all, you had come to me having done a lot of mind-body work already. But one of the frustrations you were having was not being sure which way to go, what to do more of, how to think about some of the problems. To me, it feels like we've really shrunken all of the problems down into a much smaller area.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me. Does that feel
exactly. exactly. And I can really visualize like the areas of growth that I have to do in that area. Whereas with the emotions column, I couldn't see it at all. Like I didn't identify with it really. And then again with the doubt column, like especially level 1 and level 2, I couldn't even see that much of that left either. And so it was just really frustrating. It's like, because a lot of other programs do hammer in on those two pretty soundly. And I think definitely people that get to full recoveries with those things, with those programs, that's probably where their stuff lies heavily.
Exactly. And then when it doesn't lie there, for somebody like you, you're left with lots of questions. You're kind of beating your head against a brick wall at times. And I think we really have resolved why weren't you getting better and what it is that we need to work on. So we've made huge progress, and that alone, I think, must bring you some relief. I even kind of see it in you that, good to know.
Yeah, good to know. It's almost like, when you get like a bad infection or something and you need an antibiotic and you're like going down the lines of antibiotics and nothing's really working. And then you're like, oh, it's because it wasn't aligned,
Exactly. So now we have the right problem. And but I did hear you. You want more clarification in this power column. What is the nature of the problem, and what do we need to do? So
yeah, I feel like it's very new to me, so I haven't been able to really like drill it down like I have with the other two columns, even though that wasn't my issue. I had them drilled down to the point of where I could probably say them in my sleep as far as what to do with emotions and what to do with doubt.
Right. So this is going to be an action columns session that's going to be very focused on the power column. Now we can go through each column, and I think we should spend a little time on each to determine what are the action steps. And what I'd like to do is just kind of take the emotions column and the doubt column, maybe choose one or two action steps that you're going to either keep doing or build on, and then we're going to spend the rest of the time on this power column stuff. So in the emotions column, do you feel like there is anything that you need to do, or do you feel like, no, I actually just need to keep, or maybe you could even just talk about the actions that you're just going to keep doing?
Yeah, so I did go through your action steps mind body guide or PDF, whatever you want to call it. And I singled out like the emotions and like the doubt, and then the power columns, just pretty much everything. But so I do have them written down. So with the action steps, and you have many, like you said, like I think you have like what, 150 or something, 120.
Yeah, and I could double it there's always more.
Yeah, so anyway, there's a lot to pick from. So I went through each section, and I only had like 2 in the emotions column, and I feel like they're somewhat power related too. It was the embrace the fullness of your trauma using black and white thinking, and then impact of boundaries in your life. When I can't say no, my body does say no. So really honing in on those. And I have been. It's just like those are my 2 like focuses to just continue on.
Right. But it sounds like you feel like you're in a pretty good spot with that column. Those are 2 action steps that you can continue to grow. And I do see there's some overlap with power for sure.
Yeah. And then the doubt, the mindset determining the physiology. Like sometimes it's like very hard for me to link the thought and like what happens in the body, like to the point where it's just really honed in moment to moment thinking. Like I'm still working on that. But I know it's true. It's like I don't doubt it. It's just I don't have that skill set yet.
Yep. That's a good way of putting it.
People know far less about this than you do now, which I have a little bit of struggles with that. I mean, I know, but yet it's constant doubt. And I feel like I struggled with this in my profession. I'm a dietitian, so everybody thinks that they know everything about food and nutrition. And they always are like, they always just try to like trump you. And it's always like, it's not right, but you just kind of let it go, but it's still annoying under the surface. It's like, right. I have a degree in this. Like, what are you talking to me about all these diets that you're trying when I know it's not even a diet at all, right? Like I know it's like psychological, but
Yep.
Anyway, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, oh no, now I have another thing that people think they know more than me about, but I
Yes.
know more.
Now, it's interesting, though, because your action steps in both the emotions and the doubt column are kind of power column tinged ones,
They are
right?
very much so.
We're so honed in on what the key part to this is, because to be able to use that doubt column action of recognizing that you actually know better than almost everybody now,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very power column based doubt action step, if you understand what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah. And I did put down the societal beliefs, which I feel like is the same deal.
Yep.
And then I have the trauma one too. Remind yourself that I'm like safe right now, but I wasn't safe in the past, and that's again related to the power and knowing truth, like my truth, and then that's kind of my trauma, right? It's like I know my own truth, I go to bat for my own truth, and then I'm kind of told like that's not your truth, or that's not the way society does it, so you're wrong,
Right.
basically. And then I do have some attentional TMS left, but I did go back today and listen to the podcast, so I do have some actions, and it's definitely more the obsessive rather than the doubt-based one.
Well, guess what? That points straight to the power column also.
I know. Right?
All of the things that you're hitting on, they really fit with the power column, and so this is interesting. This gives us a chance to really dive into that. So let's do that now.
Okay.
There's going to be two parts to this. First of all, I want to get an assessment of how you're understanding the power column, what some of the questions that might still be lingering to help you feel like you get it at the level you get the emotions and doubt column. Because like in the membership group, when I hear you talk about the emotions column and the doubt column, you often are echoing things. I'm like, yep,
yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. I can definitely hear it when people speak. Like I'm to that point. And I'm in another group too that I've been in for a while, and that one meets every 2 weeks. And I just kind of go to see if I can hear things that other people are saying and name them and identify them. So I know that I'm really good in those too. And I actually can identify power stuff too, but I'm like, I often don't know what to do or what I would.
And I think that'll be the main focus today, is what to do about it. But let's first see, is there anything that you feel like you still need to know about what the power column's all about, or even the basics of what you do there?
No, I think I know. I mean, I don't have my notes, but I think I do know it. Like, I don't know it enough to articulate. I don't feel it like at this point. So maybe we'd want to do that just to review. And then I know, like the core narrative, and it always comes back to going back to the core narrative and how that core narrative, like the first part is kind of how, and second part, like how you lost your power. Yep. And then the third one is about what you're going to do about it and the action steps that you're going to take to get it back.
Right.
So.
Yep. Well, that's totally right. And that's half of what you do in the power column. You wrote this down pretty well. The other half is assessing power in each moment. Because remember, each column is a very moment-to-moment column. We're moment-to-moment beings. You're going to assess when are you in power, and when you find yourself out of power, either with yourself, others, or symptoms, then you're going to make an adjustment. So today is a lot about these adjustments. What are these adjustments actually going to be? Or how do you get realigned with your core narrative? We have to look at these power column action steps. And by the way, we don't have to limit you to the ones that I articulated in the action steps mind body guide or PDF, but we do have to start to pick out some ones that are going to be really important. Now, you already identified some of them. So let's take black and white thinking as an example. Or alternatively, how you could be sure of yourself. Sure that you actually do know better than most people about this. Or sure that societal ideas really are pretty mixed up and that you can dismiss them. We have to ask the question, what is it going to take for you to realize that you can be in a position where you actually know better? It's a pretty central issue for you, I think.
Yeah. And I think it also will strike up the emotions column too a bit, because if I feel like I'm going to take a powerful stance, I'm always worried that I'm going to be um,
Punished?
yeah, or
Or
kicked out of the group or ostracized or something.
so let me ask you this. What well, I'm gonna lay out a power column action step that could respond to that, and then we'll see how this applies generally. If you're worried you're gonna get kicked out of a group just because you become powerful and good, is that a group you even want to be part of?
No, I do feel like this is, I'll push back, but I do feel like
Do.
my ideas are outside. Like I get a little bit like, it's a little bit like of a pride thing. Like I'm proud that I don't have a lot of, well, I do, of course, I'm human. There's like a lot of group think, but there's also like these 1% ideas that I really do believe in, and and I know that are true. And then I don't know, I just feel like I'm the crazy one, or I'm the one that
Okay, so
doesn't belong.
that brings power down, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I pay attention to the words. If you're thinking of yourself as crazy and them as sane, your power is drained in relation to them.
Yeah.
You do have to make a decision. This is truly a decision that you're not going to do that to yourself anymore. I'm not saying this is so easily done, but you have to consider when are you going to make the decision to stop calling yourself crazy about these things?
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. Why do you think that you'd be crazy at all about these things?
I think it's just because it's so outside of the norm. It's so outside of what other people have accumulated as their beliefs.
Okay, but let me push back in a way that should be helpful. If
Okay.
we followed the norm with everything, is the norm really that good? Just
Not
in
a,
society in general.
no. No.
I mean, I'll give you just some examples of how the norm is not so good. Um, and I'm not trying to pick on any part of society or belief system, but take I don't know why this is what's coming to mind. I was thinking about football for some reason and concussions and the damage that happens to these people, and I was thinking, if I ever had a son, which I have two daughters, so I don't have a son, but would I ever let a son play football? Absolutely not. No, there's no way in hell. But society in general values football enough that it's a very, very big part of society. I even like football. I admit it. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite about that. Sorry. Working on it. But the group think all pushes us in that direction. Group think
Yeah, I don't
also.
like football.
All right.
I've never been a Sunday football. I barely watched the Super Bowl. Like I'm very outside of the norm for even that for
Well,
football.
here's another one. We raise our kids to value grades more than learning. We actually do.
Oh yeah, totally.
Whatever people want to argue, they could say, no, the grades are for the learning. No, we are actually misvaluing this, and that's the group. Or let's look at what's happening in marriages. Over 50% of marriages end in divorce. Are we doing them right? We can't be. Not with those numbers.
Right.
So I'm wanting to push back and say, now wait a minute. How good is the group anyway?
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, like, yeah, I do get on my soapboxes about all these things, and I feel like, I don't know, like my husband's always like, oh my gosh, here she goes again, like getting on her soapbox, because I like listen to a lot of.
Okay, but I want to identify something. The problem isn't what you're saying. The problem isn't even doing it. The problem is that you're always looking with another eye to think, what are people going to think of me about this?
Yeah, exactly.
How could I be criticized about this? So a power column action step is to be fiercely in your own corner. And I mean that.
Right.
That you actually say to yourself, I'm so sick of questioning myself about this. I mean, Carrie, you're not doing anything bad to believe these things.
No, I feel like I'm over the top though. I'm like knowing like what's not working, and knowing like other avenues and like
Okay.
voicing
Well,
other avenues where that
let's
work.
ask this question though. Are you really over the top, or is this just you diminishing your power?
Yeah, I don't think I'm over the top, but I feel like the response back I get is just like, yeah, you're over the top. And then I start to believe that I'm over the top.
Okay, so here's another power column action step. And I'm just breaking out some of
Yeah.
them so you can try them on.
Yeah, this is going to be the same thing over and over. It's going to be a broken record because it's like the like the plan or the like, I don't know what I want to call it, but like the map is just like always the same. You can do different things in there, but it's always like the same.
Yeah, but here's the difference. In the power column, if you are really changing your relationship with yourself, you will crack the code. And I think the way to do that is to focus. So full acceptance of your trauma is a power column action step.
Right.
I would say that what you're saying to me means that you haven't fully accepted it.
Yeah, I haven't.
Because you're still excusing other people.
Yeah.
You're still questioning you. In the core narrative, if you're truly aligned with your core narrative, you're not questioning you anymore.
Right.
You really believe it. It's almost like you don't fully believe your core narrative yet. You know it's true, and yet you don't fully believe it.
Yeah, and then I guess like there's a quote too out there in psychology too, like, do you want connection or do you want to be right? Too. And so I like challenge that a little bit with my core narrative too. It's just like, do I just want the connection with these people or do I want to be right? Even though I know I'm right. But part of me is like, I have to be both.
I have an alternative question though. See, I think that's a faulty dichotomy that leaves you in a tough position. Because to be connected with these people, you almost have to submit yourself to being wrong.
True.
So you lose both ways. I think the power column answer here is, and this is hard. What I'm going to say here is pretty hard. I think you have to leave them behind.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I know it deep down, and I think that's what my symptoms have been really telling me, because that's when I start to say no, and it's just like, God, it's so hard, it's like so hard because I thought I was doing it right, like, or I thought people would come along with me, or like, like, I don't know, or you thought you got into a different group,
But see, this is the way you operate, and I really admire it, and I find it endearing too, and I can relate to it. People like me and you think, well, why can't we just do it both ways, where I'll do it the right way, but you come along with me a little bit, so we don't have to lose the connection. We don't have to ruin things, right?
Yeah.
But part of your trauma is that these people were never going to come along with you.
Yeah.
They were never going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
My people also, that from the trauma, they were never going to come along with me.
Yeah.
So here's go ahead.
I feel like I've done that like with my like biological family, but yeah, you acquire other family along the way, and you're like,
That's right. Look, in the power column action steps, there's things like do not be afraid to clean house.
Right. Yeah.
Toxic relationships.
It's a gut wrencher.
It is. Listen, I want to say this. Getting better, recovery, it not only has a lot of loneliness to it, which is one of the reasons that I think our community is so important, and the group memberships can add something, and the seminars do as well, is that we don't have to be alone with it. But there also is this power column action step that I talk about, the power of aloneness, being on your own journey. See, it's a decision. It's not an easy decision to make.
Yeah.
But it is a decision where you can say, you know what? The symptoms really are communicating something. Right. They're telling me it is time to move on from these old paradigms in these old relationships where if somebody's calling me into question at some big level, making me doubt myself at my core, that's not okay. I don't keep anyone close to me anymore who questions me at my core. Nobody. Nobody at all. I keep people in my life, maybe logistically. Like some of my family members, they're still in my life. I'm still friendly with them and stuff.
Right.
But at my core in here, they have absolutely no role to play anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I think one of the reasons you're not yet getting the power column breakthroughs you want is that you almost know what the symptoms are telling you, but it's sad. It's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a mourning that would take place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And even the way that they came on, it was just definitely, I thought people were going to show up one way for me and then they didn't. And it was like, and then it was just like unfolded from there. Like the symptoms just like really like came in, like I said in previous, and maybe it was in the groups, but they just kind of came in like a dump truck. And it was like, but that's exactly like what it was. It's just like this person didn't show up the way I thought they would. This person didn't show up. This situation happened. It wasn't taken care of the way I thought it would be. Like all these things that I kind of expected to happen were just like showing me like, no, like you do, like you do have to take you do have to take responsibility if you want things a certain way. And right now you can't because you have this injury, because you had a surgery, so you can't normally step in like you would. And then now, even when you need other people's help, like they're not stepping in like you thought that they would and support you.
Absolutely. And I think the further we get in life, the more important these choices become.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do I say this? I wouldn't say that I wasted parts of my life. I don't feel that.
Right.
But I did feel at a certain point that I wanted to stop wasting certain things anyway, to move on to a life where I was at the center, the core me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't betraying myself anymore. And I wasn't spending time asking, how will other people feel about this? What will they think about it? There's actually, I'm not actually huge into poetry, but there's a poem that someone introduced me to. One of the people I work with, actually, Jane. Shout out to you. There's a poem by this woman, Joyce Sutphin, and it's called Crossroads. And it's all about how the second half of our lives can be a time where we are free to make our choices.
Mm-hmm.
We're not locked in by these other things. Google it. It's a great poem. But it's exactly what you need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and ultimately you have to be determined to do this, Carrie.
Right.
I know it's scary. I know how scary it is. It's terrifying.
Right. Yeah. Because I did think that I had my life built up and it ready to be on autopilot for the second half, honestly. And then, that's not what happened. Like I thought I, had my job lined up. I had my career until retirement lined up. I had, all my relationships lined up. Like it's just
Here's
on
the thing,
autopilot.
though. I think the second half of your life is going to be much better than that supposedly great status quo you were looking for. I can tell you it myself. I thought I had things figured out too. Well, I'm going to be a therapist, right? Well, I'm now doing something that I don't even fully do therapy anymore. I do more mind-body consultations, and I love it. I love the growth that I'm having. I'm much more powerful. I'm much more alive. I'm much more creative. And I will say my personal world of connection has kind of shrunk, where some of those people who I thought were in my corner, and turns out they weren't, they don't get a seat at the table anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I feel much more connected to you than I do to them. Absolutely. Because you and I are seeing eye to eye, and we're striving for the same things, and
right.
we're in it together.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say the same. I feel more in tune with online therapists on Instagram than I do with family, to be honest. I would go over to their house for Thanksgiving anytime, and then it's just anyone in the family invite me for Thanksgiving. I'm like, who's going to be there? What are they going to say? How do I need to protect myself?
Right. And here's the thing,
Lord.
Another power column action step is putting the blame where it belongs. Really, it's not that. How do I say this? I'm going to say it to you this way, and I want to see if this makes sense to you. It's not that hard to love you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I truly do believe that. It's just I'm met all the time with like, I
But
don't understand, right?
that means that they've failed you so spectacularly
Mm-hmm.
because it just wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
And that is sad, but it's a
Right.
power column. It's a power column move to accept that the fullness of that trauma. That was not okay for you.
Right. And even my trauma made me even more perfect and even more lovable. Like, like
Right.
like
And they
no
still
black
couldn't see
marks
it.
on the record, right? Like,
And they couldn't even love you then. If
right.
anything, they were threatened by you.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
So, are you seeing though the black and white thinking coming in here, in the good way? Because
Yeah.
we're not gonna have black and white thinking about things that aren't true. We're gonna have black and white thinking about things that are true. It is true. You look what a good job you've done throughout
Yeah.
your whole life, and they failed to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't deserve you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
And
feel that?
and I feel like that's exactly what I did in my 20s, like my early 20s with my biological family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it wasn't even that hard, to be honest. It wasn't that hard to do. Um, and yeah,
So
but
this might you might not want to talk about it here. That's okay if you don't.
uh-huh.
But what's the hard part now?
I
Are
think
there particular people that you're having trouble leaving behind? Are you having trouble
I think it's
connecting to? Yeah.
because like I left my biological family behind and then I married into a family and like I think there's like one or two people there's two people in that whole family like of 50 people that have my back. And so then it's like whenever you go to a family gathering and even like those two people will kind of like question, if I'm really like just don't say that or like it's not true. And there's a lot of things that aren't really true going around and I'm like, oh my god, like I can't even believe they believe that. um
Hmm.
but yeah, everyone just kind of like, oh okay, like they just kind of let them believe it and I'm like, really? I
Is
don't.
there so sometimes in the power column, and this is actually where the power column came from in the first place, I look for conflicts that the people have within themselves about being powerful. So I do get the sense there's a conflict here about you letting yourself be powerful. Like it's dangerous or it's bad or it's a sign of something that you don't like in some way.
Yeah, I think it's like I really don't like the fact that I don't have a strong like empathetic connection even with the family that I married into. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so then that really makes me doubt like, oh my god, it must be me because I did this with my own family and now I like chose this family and now I'm like feel the same, so this has to be something with me and the way that I'm connecting with people. um
Okay, I have a power column action step for you.
yeah, go for it.
I want to lend this to you, but I want you to try it on, and you're going to need to really try it on. You'll probably have to push back against it. It won't happen instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But in the work that I do and in my kind of life philosophy as I've come to see it, the better you are, the more people are threatened by you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is like you're wondering what's the common denominator here, and you're saying, but I'm the common denominator, right? You are the common denominator,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not for bad reasons.
Yeah.
It's going to be the strongest people who are able to just see you as a co-equal that they want to have part of their lives. The vast majority of people are going to push you away.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind my saying, but you're just too good for them.
I know. It's frustrating.
Okay, well, look, and when I say this, I'm not saying it in a bragging way. I'm saying it in a black and white thinking, staying clear,
Yeah.
staying logical sort of way. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm too good for other people, but I'm really good. I work
Right.
very hard. I try to be a very good person. And it's interesting. People don't push me away as much as they used to.
Mm.
You know why? Because I don't care what they think anymore.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah, I do care too much. I mean, I don't really I just actually what I do, and I haven't even been in family situations since I've had symptoms. That's one of the things the symptoms did for me. Like, no more, because we'd have to travel, and I just wasn't traveling, and I wasn't sleeping in any other bed and all this stuff. But it's definitely one thing that my symptoms definitely said no for me. And what was I forgot where I was going.
Well, we were talking about the idea of feeling like we're,
Oh,
good. And go ahead.
yeah. So what I would do in those situations is I knew like I was good. I was, but yeah, it's just like I just shut off. Like I just shut off to everybody. I didn't interact. Like, but that didn't feel good either. Like, and then I just get frustrated by their actions. And then we get in the car to go home and I'd be like, oh my gosh, did you see what they did? And how does that fly? I don't understand.
So
I don't
here's
get it.
a power column action step. Also, I'm just gonna keep lending you these, and you try them on.
Yeah.
And you can go back and look at this video too to see, well, what did we talk about here. But another power column action step that you could use is this is channeling your aggression. Channeling your aggression, remember, this doesn't mean being aggressive or being nasty or difficult or trying to cause conflict, but it means taking understandable aggressive impulses and using it productively. So you might find yourself in a group of people and they're questioning you, and you might stand even more firm than usual and say, it's interesting. You guys, you never think about what I'm saying. You just want to tear it apart. But it's up to you. You guys get to decide. You want to flaunt your indifference.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, first you have to get indifferent.
Yeah.
But then you want to actually flaunt it.
Yeah. I definitely, like food stuff always comes up, and like people are doing fad diets all the time, like in the family. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's so not right. Like that's not really the reason why you're losing weight. And it's going to come back, and it's going to come back, and you're going to have even more weight to deal with. But, whatever, like you think it's the best, and we're working around your diet, and it's just annoying, right? And so there's that. And then
annoying that they're kind of dismissing your expertise and
or it's just not even true. Like I get it. Like right. The diet industry is huge, right? So it's $1 billion industry, and people fall prey to it all the time. But
yep, another way that we're all messed up.
It's annoying that like I am an expert, and like you don't even think to ask. Like you just fall prey to this, and like she doesn't know.
So what would be a power move there?
Yeah, my power move in the past hasn't worked, and that's been to say nothing and just let it all like.
Well, but saying nothing isn't necessarily not a powerful move. But I want you to, if you're gonna say nothing in a satisfying way to you.
Right.
In other words, instead of saying nothing and thinking, "Why don't you respect me?" Because that brings down your power.
Yeah.
You could say nothing and just be like, "You're a fool, and you're never gonna get anywhere with this. And I'm standing by here anytime you want to ask, even though you won't.
Right.
But I'm not going to pay any more attention to it.
Right.
I'm not wasting my time on this." Do you hear the difference, though?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some, and you and I think we'll work this out a little bit over the next number of weeks or whatever in terms of going through the group membership time. We will be able to hone in on this. And it's one of the reasons that, the seminars and the consultations can lead to more, day-to-day membership group work. Is you're very close. You're extremely close to breaking through on this.
I so know it too. But yeah, I still do need the symptoms to do the knowing for me. Like I know I do.
But the fact that you're already becoming more powerful. What we have to do now, and it's interesting, is your action steps are going to be much more around a very specific idea, which is how do we take away the conflict and the worry you have about being powerful?
Yeah.
Definitely. I had to lose that worry. I had to decide. It's almost like deciding to rebel.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think what we need to do is identify what is the conflict. You could identify it as, well, I'm afraid that they'll respond a certain way. But I think you know yourself well enough to know that the central issue isn't that, because you've been dealing with that your whole life anyway.
Yeah, I
The
think
real question, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I really do think it's like being the lone wolf. Like, like you you think you get it right, you think you're in the right tribe, and then you're like, oh, I really don't want to go back to being a lone wolf again. Like that sucked, and here I go again.
Let me help you with that analogy, though.
Okay.
Words matter, analogies matter, metaphors
Right.
matter. You don't have to go back to being a lone wolf. You just can't go back to being a follower in bad tribes. You might need to form your own tribe.
Yeah, and I think that's what I got out of the running group, because that group probably not, it wasn't exact, but the mindset of the people who run is very similar to mine.
Mm-hmm.
And like my mindset is actually really similar to like Michael Jordan's and that whole movie that series that they did with the Bulls. I'm like, I know that mindset. Like, I know it. And it's such a rare mindset. And it's just, people are like, how do you even have that? But
yeah, and look, in The Last Dance, one of the things you see is that Michael Jordan, it didn't matter to him whether he was alone or with people. People ended up flocking to him, actually. But he is one of the figures that I've often looked to as a person who has that power column. He can stand alone against anybody.
Yeah. But then again, like you see what happened to his life. Like he lost his marriage. Like, it's just like he has potentially some gambling stuff. And
he
kind of see other things.
There were some downsides. There were some downsides. But even so, his ability to know with complete certainty what he knew about himself as a basketball player. Let's just limit it to basketball, okay?
Right.
On the basketball court, he knew that he was the greatest player of all time. He felt it in him, and he made it real.
Right, yep.
That's essentially what we have to do in our lives about anything. That's what I do as a mind-body expert. That's what I do as a dad. I can't do it on the basketball court. I get on the basketball court, and I'm not quite at that level. But I try to. You know?
Yeah.
But there are certain things we can know, and we can truly be like Michael Jordan about. And the power column is one of them for us all, because it's whatever it looks like for you. So if you're in a family situation, what would the Michael Jordan of that situation do? That's the power column.
Right. He'd probably just sit there with this plate of food and just down it and be like, you guys are just ridiculous. You want to go play some ball? I'll beat you at ball. Like, like, I'll show you. Like, I'll show you and my strengths. Like
that's exactly
I'll take
right.
you out to the court.
Listen, Michael Jordan is one of the people in society who had the least problem channeling his aggression of anybody that I could see. He wasn't aggressive in like some horrible way. He just could channel his aggression.
Yeah.
And he was like, he used every bit of every slight that he received, he used to become more powerful.
Right.
In a way, I do the same thing. I do it with kindness, and I do it productively. And I think he was very productive in lots of ways. You can do the same thing. And it's like, this is power column work right here. I think that you have always known your power, but felt you had to pretend it wasn't there. That certainly was the case for me.
Yeah. Or like I said, like as soon as I would step out and thought that I had it and thought that I could, like, even at work, like I thought that I could direct the team, like I thought that I could do this thing, and I had big visions for my work, and then I was pushing all the time.
Right. But you got pushed back from that. If you were fully powerful, you would have been able, and I don't mean this critically, but you would have been able to step back out and say, wait a minute, guys, you're missing your big chance here.
Yeah. And that's where I fell short.
And that's because of the conflict.
Right. Exactly. It's like, I'm so close. And that's kind of what's so annoying, because I see people even further back in their power than that. And it's just like, oh yeah, I get here, and then it's just like frozen, or it's too much. Just never mind.
Yeah. Interestingly, you've been on the cusp of the breakthrough, I would say in many ways for years.
Yeah, probably my whole life, really.
Yes. Right. The thing is, and this is a power column action step, I don't have it written out as one of the PDF ones, but you have to decide to side with yourself over everyone else.
Yeah, and I don't do that very often.
Yep.
Like I'll do it sometimes, but the majority is not that.
Yeah. Um, there was a hip hop artist, Nipsey Hussle. I don't know if you know him. I'm not at all into hip hop. It's kind of hilarious that I'm bringing this up, but we had him on a show that I was on, and he said this line that I think was really insightful. He said, "Would you rather be at war with the world or at war with yourself?"
Yeah, and I picked myself, right? Because
Goodists always choose themselves. What we need to do is to recognize that's not actually the choice. I understand what he's saying, and that's important, and I would always choose war with the world rather than me. But those aren't the choices. You can choose to be not at war with yourself and to channel your aggression against the world to build good things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you becoming more powerful will only be a good thing.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Right.
At some level you know that, and at some level you think, I don't know, this could be really dangerous and bad.
Yeah.
Because that's the message you received.
Yeah. So, it's scary because, yeah, I've pretty much, since I don't even remember when it started, but I've kind of been at war with my profession itself. And now I'm just like, I don't think I'm going back to that profession. And I don't think I can even, like, without having like physical symptoms telling me that's not what I want to do, I can't go back to my profession because I don't want to do, only want to do a sliver of the jobs in the first place. And now that sliver is even like, I don't want to do it.
Well, you may not want to do it at all, but even if you did go back to it in some way, you could do it on your own terms. I mean, as an example, my next book that I'm already kind of conceptualizing is how therapy should actually be.
Right.
That's taking my own profession to task. And
right.
I don't mind at all. I'm like, go ahead and criticize, because if you read what I write, you'll know I'm right.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with dietetics. I mean, the profession itself is run kind of weird with fees and boards and I don't know. Anyway, licenses and all this stuff. And so like that's weird to me. And then the other, like, and how you get into the programs is weird. And then the jobs are very low paying for what you expense. It's not a good deal. But yeah, like if I was in my 20s and I came out of school, I probably would have been online, because when I came out of school, I actually worked 3 different jobs in the profession. But then I had a kid. I worked those 3 jobs when I was pregnant. So that's how much of like a go-getter I am. I had a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs in the profession, and I was pregnant the whole time. It's kind of weird.
You remind me of me, except I've never been pregnant, but I follow you.
But, and online wasn't a thing back then in the early 2000s. So, I probably would have built up my own business, but now I'm like, okay, like this is how people in the dietetics field actually make money. They speak out against the profession and then they do their own thing online.
Yeah. Yep. And like that may not be the way you want to go specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the kind of roadmap of how we want to go.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you really are a good example of someone who is right at the cusp of breaking through in your power column in huge levels.
Right.
And when you decide to and when you enact it, those symptoms are not going to need to be there anymore, because they're largely there now as a communication. And here's the good news, even though it's a little hard in some ways. Your symptoms will not give up until you make this choice.
I know. I've tried everything else, right? I've actually did not want to do this work because it's the hardest part. I'm like, yeah, I
Yep.
wanted it to be something else because,
But your symptoms know who you are.
yeah.
They know that you are limiting yourself, that you've been ordered to limit yourself, and that you've been following directions, being the good little soldier.
Hmm.
Not anymore. I'm not saying you have to do it today,
Yeah.
but we have to start gearing you up for the rebellion. You have to decide you are not going to submit yourself to these people who just want to make you not powerful when you already are powerful.
Right. Right. And I think that's why I I become like nauseated when I think of like going back into the profession and working in a like job that's just out there, is because I know I can't be powerful in that position like I want to be, because I've tried it. I tried it for 18 years or whatever. And
Yep.
I even, like when I had time, I was doing my own thing on the side. And then, I had kids. So it's like, then you have kids and then that takes up time. So then you only can work your 40-hour a week job.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but so anyway,
Well, here's the thing.
that's the
We got
thing. I can't go back to like the 40-hour a week job that's just so cookie cutter.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, during the pandemic, we've seen mass resignations for the same reason. I think people are coming to terms with this. They
Right.
don't want to be stuck in a non-powerful place when they don't have to be.
Right.
So, your symptoms are going to guide you, and I'm going to help you figure out how do we get past this conflict. But the great news is, you don't have to do anything else. You've already got your emotions column in good shape. You got your doubt column in good shape. You're already powerful. We just have to help you unleash it in a way that's comfortable and without conflict.
Yeah, exactly.
You're at the tail end of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you're the first person that's understood it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is
Well, I'm honored.
3 years of therapy, 3 solid years, of trying, and yeah.
Well, I can imagine it must feel good to actually feel seen for who you are. You're
Right.
not an unpowerful person at all. You're a very powerful person who is afraid to let it out fully.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. 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 And I didn't feel like I was being seen in a lot of different, even like online groups, because, and sometimes it would annoy me because I could see, exactly what their problem is. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I don't get why you're stuck.
Right. Well, and actually, I think you will help lots of people in the membership groups. I think you're going to help a lot of people with this video. I think you're just at the beginning of becoming as powerful as you really can be. But I'm really excited about this, and I know how to break you through. It's going to take some time for us to try on these other power column action steps, to see what's standing in the way and to tweak them. But we're going to keep making those adjustments because we're going to see, when are you out of power, when you
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do have a tendency to like freeze. Like that's my like freeze response comes in
That's right.
it feels scary, it's just like, yeah, I don't want to move. And then
We're actually, I know it sounds weird and we do have to wrap up on this, but we're going to get to a place where you actually enjoy being powerful. You not only won't be afraid of it, you'll enjoy it.
yeah, that'd be nice.
That's what we're working towards. But Carrie, I really want to thank you because it takes such bravery to do this.
Yeah, and just like on another note, and then we
Mm-hmm.
kind of end, but I was just gonna say, like, if you knew my family history and if you saw it, it would, like, where I am is remarkable, but like to take me even to this most powerful place would be like surpassing anything my family lineage has ever done.
Well, that's going to happen. It really is. There's the only thing standing in your way is the full acceptance of what happened to you and you getting fully, fiercely in your own corner and making the decision. Once you do that, you'll be just like Michael Jordan. You'll be able to go do what you do best.
Right.
And it's going to be really exciting. So, keep me posted. Obviously, we'll be working together in the membership groups to work on this, but I'm right on this. And I think I see you very clearly. You see you very clearly. We know that it's not any of this other stuff that could confuse things that we're going to need. This is it.
Yep.
All right, Carrie. Well, this was a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing our work together. But I feel really good about really identifying what's the source of this problem, because then we can start to play around with these action steps more and more and more. And you saw today how we tried on certain things, and you could see, well, okay, that does make sense, but here's where I run into trouble. That's how we get answers, in a way that's you asking questions. So keep up the good work, and we're going to get there.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
All right, Carrie. This was a really interesting one, as they all are in individual ways, but in this case, Carrie had been through the seminar in the middle of the consultation, and it really did change things. You could see, or at least I could see, how much she understood the columns backwards and forwards, how much more confident she was. And you can see it in this session as she came in saying, I had already done a lot of the emotions column work with previous practitioners and mind-body thinking, and I had kind of already mastered doubt when it came to the seminar. She said, I've worked through all of that. But the power column is where we are now working. You can see it in this session how much of the time we spent on that. But what was really interesting there is that she's already powerful. She just has a conflict about being powerful. And this is where the power column came from. It came from my recognition that people who had already basically mastered the emotions and the doubt pretty well could sometimes still be stuck on a plateau. And that's what we're seeing with Carrie. The good news is we have a very clear beat on it. We also have a method that we can use to get through, to make breakthroughs in this. With the membership group, we're going to keep working on, well, what is causing that conflict? We're going to keep trying on those power column action steps. And I have absolutely no doubt that she's going to get there. And ultimately, that what the symptoms are communicating, that message is going to be received, and it's going to make for a better life for her. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.